Small business war stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes. Hey, lovers of small businesses and good stories in general. Welcome to today's episode. Today's episode is the last of our South by Southwest burst of 5 episodes that we produced and recorded here during the South by Southwest Festival in Austin, Texas. We've gotten all kinds of folks, music folks and people who talked about, what's going on with like machines and artificial intelligence, all kinds of fascinating topics. And today is no different. We had Eric Waisman on the show, and Eric's a personal friend of mine, great musician. He has a band called Blind Stairs in San Francisco, and we have played and traveled musically together. And he is an amazing student of social intelligence and what it takes for people to become aware of themselves and aware of their relationships with other people. And he offers very specific tips and tactics about how to improve on that. And I know that I need to improve some of that, and we all need to improve some of that. With all the stuff that's going on with social media and people being on their phones all the time, it's becoming a lost art. How do you interact with another human being who is in front of you? So Eric is fantastic, and we go into quite a few things here. This episode of Small Business War Stories, like every episode, is brought to you by Proven. And Proven is a small business information hub, and we also have a hiring tool. So we will help you understand all different aspects of your business with this podcast, with our blog, and with our partnerships with other companies. We will help you run your business better. So check out proven.com, proven.com. Without further ado, I do want to get into today's episode in Austin, Texas, the last of our South by Southwest 2018 episodes with Eric Waisman of Jaunty.org. And we are live here in beautiful Austin, Texas. And this morning, I have the pleasure and honor to sit down with Eric Waisman, and he is the founder of Jaunty, which is a school of social intelligence. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Oh man, it's a pleasure to be here, Pablo.
Yeah, I've known you for quite a while. We've played some music together, you and I. We've been to Memphis. We've been to Clarksville, Mississippi to play the blues. We played on the stage of the Hard Rock Cafe on Gill Street.
That was the best. I think you pushed me out of my comfort zone the most that day. If I remember correctly, I wasn't on, but it was definitely on a big stage.
You got served a little bit of a difficult situation with a gentleman that had been playing for probably about 60 years, who decided to go a little bit outside of the let's just say agreed upon rules of the blues.
That's right.
And you had to just kind of make it up and keep up.
And I think that's what it's all about, is getting up there with someone who's been doing it a long time, playing with people that are better than you, or spending time with people that are better. That's what you do.
I
feel like you learn a lot from those situations.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm here. You're better at social intelligence than I am, so I'm here sitting with you today to learn.
All right. Well, let's do it.
That is awesome. So whenever people are starting a small business, a lot of times they think about, well, obviously, what's going to be my business? They think about their numbers and like with their business model. And oftentimes people, and you hear a lot, hey, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So people talk about networking and connections. But there's another step, which is like once you do know somebody, like how do you relate to those people? How do you communicate? What is the dynamic, right? And that's what social intelligence is all about.
Yeah, exactly. I think being able to see someone is easier than ever today. We have our technology. We can push a couple of buttons and set up everything from a business meeting to a date. But then once you get in front of the person, I think a lot of times people aren't as comfortable as they should be. And that's where we really come in. We've tried to create a school for social intelligence.
That's awesome. And that's especially important now. You have social media, like you said, Instagram, people liking each other's posts and doing things like that. And the actual art of human communication, one-on-one interaction, is starting to become lost, right? You see, how often do you go to a restaurant or a bar and see people, like a group of 5 friends, and every single person is on their phone doing something else?
Oh yeah, I mean it's intimidating. There's a lot of there's a lot of FOMO going on with your
Yeah.
phones, and you think there's
FOMO,
something
FOMO for some of our listeners who may not have heard of the term is the fear of.
fear of missing out.
Yep.
So we're kind of in the generation of there might be something better right around the corner, and we see so much on our phones that it feels like other people are having better experiences than we are constantly.
Yeah.
So
But we're all guilty of that. So we say that, right? But so yesterday we were at Luck Reunion at Willie Nelson's ranch,
yeah.
and it was an amazing experience. And we were documenting that. We took a couple of videos, a couple of photos, and we did share those on social media.
Totally.
So in some ways, we're also guilty of that.
Right. Well, there's expression, and then there's in-person expression.
Okay.
And
Let's
and
talk about that.
yeah, and I think that's where the difference comes in is, if your personality is different online than it is in person, right? Then it's going to be a little bit of a shell shock when you get in front of the person, and I think that's why we may feel let down sometimes, or we may feel isolated, even though we are in the same room as someone.
That's really interesting because sometimes. Yeah, the image that people put out is different, right? So
Yeah.
then how do you, let's talk about specifics. So if somebody comes to Jaunty, somebody comes to your school, how do you first assess their level of social intelligence and sort of where to begin working on improving that?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it really all starts with social anxiety. And so that really comes with, I guess the way to put it is how comfortable you are in your own skin meeting new people. You know, things like walking up to someone, introducing themselves, things like being set up for an interview and sitting, like this, being across from someone who's asking them questions and remembering to be the best self you can in that, hey, if you like having fun, if you like throwing in things like humor and playfulness, making sure you connect on those levels. A lot of people aren't comfortable. They get into maybe a strict formal mode, especially when their online persona has been set up in a way where you have that expectation. So that can be tough for a lot of people.
Sure. So let's think of somebody, let's not use names, obviously, but let's think of somebody specific that came in, and how did you help them? What was the issue that they were having, and how did you help them work that out?
Yeah, well, I'm in San Francisco, and San Francisco tends to be a little bit tech heavy, and people spend a lot of times plugged in their computer.
Right.
And we find a lot of people who work from home, actually, who are mobile. And unfortunately, it's staying at home, using your phone for, ordering food.
Yep.
So they don't have to leave the house to eat or do their laundry. And working in front of a computer for hours on end.
Okay.
And what ends up happening is you kind of build up your comfort zone gets smaller and smaller with going out and meeting people. And when something changes, like, hey, now I have to meet my team for work, or now I have to go networking in front of people and sell myself or connect with people or make friends or whatever it might be, people freak out.
So let's say that, let's actually bring it down to specifics. So let's say that I'm somebody who is in that situation, who I need to interact with people, but it gives me a ton of social anxiety to interact with people. And I'm coming to you, and I'm like, Eric, help me out with this. Let's actually go through some role plays and figure out, how are you going to help me?
Yeah, well, the first thing I think would be finding out where the hell social anxiety goes in your body.
Okay.
Like if I asked you right now, if you thought about something that really pushed you out of your comfort zone, where in your body do the alarms go off that tell you that you're nervous?
I feel like my diaphragm, like right where I breathe, right where I feel like I hold my breath, right? It just kind of, instead of like you and I both sing and do music, like right where you're supposed to be relaxed and flow, that's what tightens up first.
Yeah, and that's what happens to a lot of people. Good notice, knowing a lot of people don't know that it's their chest. All they say is, I feel really uncomfortable. I don't know what it is. So step one's identifying that.
Yeah.
And then step two is connecting that feeling with things you do that can make you nervous.
Okay.
So we can do specific body language exercises. Our goal is that we flood that. Right, so we flood your diaphragm, we flood your chest, we flood.
So let's say that I have that feeling comes up for me when, say, somebody comes up to me and makes direct eye contact and stretches out their hand and introduces themselves.
Right,
Somebody who's confident in their own skin comes up to me, and whenever I feel that, I'm just doing a role play here, and let's say that would happen to me. So then, what we would practice in would be you coming up to me and doing that over and over?
Exactly. So we would actually start off with just standing in open body language and having long sustained eye contact until that feeling kind of went up and down and up and down and finally leveled out. And we just do that a ton.
Okay.
And all of a sudden you actually get kind of bored of your diaphragm alarm going off.
Okay. So you're basically over flooding the alarm system for the specific behavior that triggers the person to feel bad.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
The two things that really help with social anxiety is getting used to and getting bored of your actual body alarms that go off, and then also increasing your skill level. So the second part is getting really good at being like, hey, how's it going? I'm Pablo. Hey, how's it going? I'm Pablo. Hi, I'm Pablo. Nice to meet you. How's it going? I'm Pablo. So doing that over and over again, concentrating on that, you actually think about something that you were extremely nervous of the first time you did, maybe the first time you got on stage or your first show.
Sure.
How do you feel now about it, and why?
Okay, let's actually think about that. So the first time I got on stage, let's just do the first time I played here in Austin. I do remember that it was a key bar, and I didn't quite know my songs as well. I had a much shorter. Now I can have a like hour and a half set that I'm pretty comfortable doing. At that point, it was probably closer to 25 minutes. And yeah, it was definitely. I mean, I'd done some public speaking before, so I got in front of people. But yeah, it was definitely. I definitely had a fear of forgetting lyrics. I had a fear of messing up rhythms. Things did go wrong. My amp, one of the tubes came loose, which made it go quiet. That's not good.
No.
So yeah, I definitely felt. But I don't know. Like for me, like those moments of discomfort and powering through those. You just learn. You just keep learning and getting better and better. And I still have different issues at different times now, but you just knowing that whatever happens, you can get through it. That's a helpful thing for me.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Is proving to ourselves that social skills are learnable.
Right.
So
stuff can go wrong, and it's okay.
Right. Stuff can definitely go wrong, and it's okay. However, what if you tried something new socially and you tried it 20 times and you've practiced it, like walking up to someone with slow and open body language and being like, hey, how's it going? I'm Pablo. And then going into an open-ended
Let's
question.
talk about that. Slow and open body language.
Yeah.
Why is that important?
Well, I think how you act can connect with how you feel. And how you feel can connect, technically becomes what you are. And then that's the perception that's going to come across.
Okay, so what's really interesting about what you just said is that what I'm hearing and reading between the lines is that behavior can shape personality, right? So a lot of times when people grow up, they're like, this is my personality, thus this is my behavior. Like, I am an introvert, and I am a social person, I am a scared person, I am a brave person. And then they behave in that way. But I think, in my experience, this has been true, what I'm hearing you say is that you can actually shape your personality through your behavior. So you can train yourself over time to behave in ways that kind of work in the reverse, right?
Yeah, so we're not 100% sure. No one is. Science doesn't know. But we think 50% of that is going to be genetic, right? And so 50% is
people's
genetic.
personalities.
Yeah. There are different things we absorbed, and, the neural pathways that we might have created were absorbed in a certain way. Some are faster than others. We don't know. But 50% is behaviors. 50% is your behavioral activity, exactly what you were saying. And there's also some environment in there, obviously. So what's around you, where you put yourself, the choices you make in your environment can play a part in that as well. I think 50% is more than enough. And what you don't have to change personality. That's not the goal. The goal is that we're changing behaviors. The goal is that we're bringing our best from deep inside out. We're bringing out our best humor. We're bringing out our favorite types of
and that's
empathy.
A great point, because I think people freak out a little bit when you say you're going to change their personality, because people this is a deeper kind of conversation about like ego and like and what that means, but people get attached to their personalities because their perception of their personality has been around since they've been around. Mm-hmm. So when you basically shape it as like you're shaping your personality and expressing the best you possible instead of you're changing your personality, I think that's more something that people can relate to, right?
Yeah, exactly. What we want to do is draw from what we put together in our lives as our favorites and our best. So that can be, hey, are you comfortable with touch? If you grew up in a country where you only bowed and never touched, you're going to be uncomfortable going to a country where they kiss on both cheeks. So your behaviors can change to where you can get more and more comfortable with it, even though you haven't been doing it for a long time.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's say I grew up in a country where people only bow, and then I am all of a sudden the international business director for some company, and I need to be going to, say, Barcelona next week, which is a place where, it's a lot more physical touch, a lot more friendly. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's a judgment. It's a different way to express friendliness, right? That's much more physical. How would you coach that person? What would you do with that person to help them through that?
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. But if we want to jump right into touch, because we want to connect that with body language and overall kind of charisma. But if we're going to jump right into touch, well, we would start talking about using our hands a little bit more, moving our hands on higher points. Some people use their hands visually to talk a lot more during conversations. Some never have. Mm-hmm. And so starting even before we start touching is moving our hands during high points or exciting points in conversation.
Okay, using the hands is almost like an accent tool.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You can use them with purpose. Obviously, shaking hands, that's going to be that's kind of a big deal here. So getting comfortable with putting out your hand, strong, medium shake, good eye contact. I think we've all heard the correct and incorrect ways of shaking hands. So
why don't we talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's some terrible ways you can put out your hand.
Well, yeah, there's some universal, like the limp fish and some pretty bad ways.
Right. And so one of the best ways,
or the crusher.
Right, the crusher is pretty amazing when someone's trying to dominate someone else. And there's some fun, this. You can do some jiu-jitsu stuff with the grabbing someone's hands. But yeah, I think a medium shake, a fun way of knowing how to do it correctly is kind of that soft cushion part that connects the beginning of your thumb to the beginning of your index finger knuckle. Is kind of making sure those connect.
Okay.
So
you don't come up short. That's an awkward one.
Right.
When somebody grabs your fingers and squeezes them.
Right. That's always ridiculous.
Just a little bit more, dude. We're almost there, and you squeeze.
Right. Usually at that point, you pull them in for a hug or something.
Yeah. Yeah, you do hug a lot.
I grew up with a.
I'm a hugger too. So I'm very comfortable hugging you. Do you ever encounter situations where you hug people and they freak out?
No. Usually my hug is kind of a let them lead hug. Sometimes if it's the first time, I will open my arms and be like, bring it in, and see how they take it from there. If they're less comfortable, I'll do the half hug, but if they're...
What's a half hug?
Well, I mean, it's very rare, but if you open your arms, you're like, hey, bring it in, and someone doesn't know what to do, I'll just kind of put my arm around their back and just be like, all right. Just
kind of right next to them.
Yeah,
got it.
Exactly. But 99.99%, at least, in my experience, people are really happy, and people crave that stuff.
Yeah.
We don't get enough of that warmth, at least in these bigger cities, we don't get enough of that warmth. We don't get enough touch. We don't inappropriate touch, especially now. You have to be really careful with that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because corporations are now bringing us in to bring that back.
Interesting. What do they ask you for?
Especially within teams, to be able to be comfortable with everything. Assertiveness is a big thing, but also warmth with touch and hugging and high fives. Like you can get sued for high-fiving someone now.
No.
No, you can't. But I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
These extreme cases come up a lot more than you would think. And so getting comfortable with, handshakes, high fives, even pats on the back, and hugs, even cheersing. Cheersing is a touch that you don't think about. If you have coffee and they have coffee in the kitchen, you kind of give them a little bit of a cheers. That can feel like a touch.
Like community.
Yeah.
So do you take people out in the field and coach them on this? You start in your facility and you do your classes and your sessions, right? But then do you take them out to hey, let's go to the street, let's go to a coffee shop and actually test this?
Yeah. So a lot of it's evidence based. And so a lot of it's going out, and I think we were getting to this earlier, is that evidence based of, hey, if you try cheersing someone or hugging someone 20 times, what's your success in what you consider success rate? Is it working 18 times? Is it working 19? And the one that didn't, what can we tweak? So yeah, of course, it's our main thing that we have is our courses where we're role playing, the shit out of this stuff over and over and over and over and over again. And then we go out and test it.
Okay.
And so it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun going out. Recently, our class sizes have just been overwhelming. That we're having people partner off and go off and have their own adventures and stories, and our instructors will be out.
Tell me about that. What do you do? What do they do?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on their goals, but some of the big things. I mean, it starts off from eye contact, and it goes all the way to walking up to someone at a networking event, walking up to a group at a networking event, holding a conversation, getting past hello, managing your social anxiety. There's a lot of little things like taking the pressure off of people, making it. One of the biggest things we teach, Pablo, is frame, and so frame kind of comes from your belief and seeing when. Your social reality of the world, right? And so if something has worked 20 times in a row and you're going to walk up to number 21, how are you feeling? You're feeling pretty good. Your momentum is pretty strong. So when you're expecting something to work and you're acting like this is the most normal thing in the world because, this is normal, this is what I do, it tends to be contagious. And that's a really cool kind of maybe tip for anyone going into a meeting or anyone, even like this podcast. I don't do many podcasts. I actually say no to a lot of podcasts, but coming into it and feeling like, hey, yeah, this is normal, putting headphones on, I'm comfortable because of music, and microphone because of music. And so, but I don't do a lot of podcasts, but my frame is, hey, this is something that
yeah. Well, it helps that probably my frame coming into it was that this is something that's normal.
And yeah, you're very good at this, and so you're good at the podcast, and you're very good at making people comfortable and asking great questions. And so, yeah, the fact that you were treating this as normal, you could have very easily made this awkward for me. You could have been stuttering in your questions, or you could have been acting like this is the first time you're doing it, or are you ready? You could have been like asking me if I'm ready a million times, and so all these things, and that's putting pressure on me. So you making this frame normal, I'm like, oh, this must be very normal,
right?
And
okay.
you can do that in a meeting. You can do that on a date. You can do that meeting new friends. Like imagine how you would like someone to walk up to you or approach you, or imagine if you started a meeting, how someone should kind of be open, and what would they be doing that would make it feel comfortable for you.
Cool.
And so those are the
how did you first become interested? So you told me before many years ago actually that you started studying this. You just became curious about all this and then became a student of all of this. How did this all come about? How did you get into this?
San Francisco is really what pushed me, is seeing how bad it's gotten with our primal face-to-face connecting with people. The community, we were talking about this earlier. The community is dying. It's becoming kind of this soulless, very A to B, passive-aggressive type of what's next feeling, and it started like that a long time ago. But for me personally, it was, my mom's been a teacher forever, and I have a lot of that in me. My dad was in a long line of entrepreneurs and business owners. And so just being able to kind of connect those dots, I found myself connecting to a lot of groups. This is something that everyone should maybe think about, is like, just because you're in one industry, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't connect with a lot of different industries and push out of your comfort zone and go to, I've gone to a lot of tech events, or gone obviously to music events, but craftsmanship is something that I'm really uncomfortable with, going to these events and trying to connect with those people. So growing up, I was friends with the skaters in school. I was friends with the theater geeks. I played baseball. And so it was all these different groups that I found myself being the glue for.
Okay. So you teach this in person in San Francisco, and your website is jaunty.org.
Jaunty.org.
Do you offer any remote resources for people to access if they're interested in this?
Yeah, I mean, it's not as obviously personable, but we do a lot of Skype. phone calls. I think we are expanding cities, but it's kind of like, martial arts or anything else. You have to be there.
You have to practice.
You have to practice. You have to be there. There are things that you can definitely get exercises for and go out and try this stuff, but there's nothing like that live feedback of coaching and going out and doing it.
Yeah.
The problem with this too is a lot of people sit and read about it, and they read forums about it, and they read books about it, and it's not like, you're not gonna be able to spin kick someone to the face by reading about it, in karate. So you need to practice it.
Interesting. So are there resources that you can point, like let's say somebody doesn't have the money or the ability, anybody in their city that provides this, what can they do?
Well, I think every city has coaches in some sense. If you find a really good life coach who has studied social intelligence, but on your own without getting help or without taking it to that next level, I think is paying attention to yourself and figuring out what you want and when you feel at your best socially, and writing out what are the things you're doing that are working. I think first steps we always say is slow down. Like move like you're walking through butter. So slow your body language down, slow your speech down if you can. We all feel too rushed, and that's when we make mistakes. We trip or we spill shit or we say stupid things because we're just moving too fast.
Yeah.
And so slowing down is...
Yeah, I definitely notice myself doing that sometimes.
Yeah, spilling stuff?
No, speaking too fast and getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, no, we all do that. And, I think with today's technology, we feel like we have to go, we just have to speed up. I see people rushing all the time. And the people that are slowing down, you can really tell that they're comfortable with themselves, and you start feeling like that when they're around. And that's kind of the goal is that we are contagious in some sense. So how do you want the people around you to feel? How do you want the people around you to feel? If you start slowing down and speaking slow, they're going to start being more comfortable as well. And they're going to be like, I like having Pablo around. Okay. I'm going to invite him to my next thing.
Cool. Where can people find you? So your website is Jaunty. That's JAUNTY.org, right?
Yeah, that's probably the best place because all our information's on there. There's an email on the connect page and a phone number that'll get connected right to me. So,
well, awesome. Well, welcome to Austin. Welcome to South by Southwest. And it's a pleasure and honor to have you on the show. And thanks for sharing all your wisdom.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
All right, brother.
Love to be here.
Thank you for listening to Small Business War Stories. If you enjoy the show, share it with a friend, or you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or on our blog at blog.proven.com. If you have an idea for us, we'd love to hear it. Please email us at podcast@proven.com. See you next time. Small Business War Stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes.